Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Darrell Owens, and we're back for another edition of One-on-One here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network, and of course, airing on the amazing Bowie Television. Today, we've got a really, really big one. The battle of the old schools, and we'll see Flacco take on Aaron Rodgers as the Bengals will take on the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight in Cincinnati. So it should be a fun one. It's I won't say a must win for Cincinnati, but they've got a lot to figure out. The Steelers are on a roll right now. They can extend their lead in the AFC North with a win tonight. So we'll see how that all goes. But with that being said, it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 185 of 101, week 7, the power rankings. And guess what? There's a new number one this week for back-to-back weeks. But let's get into that in a few seconds here. Episode 185 begins now.
One. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to One-on-One at Legacy Maker Sports Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Episode 185. Well, here it is, 185, 101, power rankings. Another interesting week in the NFL. Parity has been a fun thing in the NFL. Some very interesting technically new number one teams in both conferences. One from last week and a new one from this week. One of those guys are the new number one in the power ranking, but we'll get into all that. We got Steelers and Bengals tonight in just about 30 minutes. So, we're about that far away from it. But anyway, we want everybody to enjoy this episode. We're going to get into it. We got a lot to get into. We start this off affectionately with the bottom. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom for week 7, for back-to-back weeks, the New York Football Jets. Boy, oh boy, why did I pick them, guys? Why did I pick the New York Jets to beat the Denver Broncos? Now, here's the thing. 13-11 wasn't a barn burner. They had a chance. The Jets have to win at some point. They just have to win at some point. I feel like I keep picking them because I feel like they probably should be more like 3-3. They should be a better football team than what we've seen, but they just haven't been able to pull it through. Poor Justin Fields only had 11. Oh, subtract the 3. Let me subtract that twice. He had negative 10 yards passing. How does that even happen? I mean, I know it's possible, obviously, because that's what the stat line was. But at one point, he had like a negative 10 yards. I mean, it's insane to me. And here's the crazy thing. He's not throwing interceptions. 4 touchdowns, no picks, 799 yards. It's just not cooking. It's just not working right now for the New York Jets. I was hoping good things for Justin Fields because I feel like he has the talent in the league to do some good things. He may have been put in some really bad situations. This might be more bleak than the Chicago Bears situation was when he was there. Pittsburgh gave him a little life and showed that, under good leadership, he can do good things. He was 4-1, I think, last year before they brought Russell Wilson in. This is not a knock on Aaron Glenn because I think Aaron Glenn could be a really good coach in this league. For whatever reason, it's just not working right now. So the Jets are at 32, and I hope it works out for them. 0-6, got to get a win. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you, I didn't pick them this week to win. They're gonna probably win this week. At 31, the Tennessee Titans. Boy, another team that I picked last week, and I don't know what the heck I was thinking. The Titans losing to the Raiders 20-10. And it's funny because the Raiders have won both of their games this year 20-10. And this one against a Titans team where I thought coming off of a week where they were able to get a win against Arizona, I thought they could maybe get a little streak going. But that did not happen, and they looked miserable. They looked absolutely miserable. Then on top of them looking bad, they've officially fired their coach, Brian Callahan. So he's done. He's gone. And it's just a really, really, really bad deal right now for the Titans. They're rebuilding, and I think that's something that if you're a Titans fan that you have to be okay with. I think you really got no choice at this point. It's a rough go. It's a rough go. But the Raiders get their second win. They moved up a little bit on our power rankings. They're 26 in the power rankings this week. At number 30, the New Orleans Saints. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Saints had a pretty, tough game with the Patriots. They battled with this New England team who seems to be on the up and up. And the Saints, they never gave up. They just don't have enough firepower. Like if they would be last on my power rankings if I thought, that they didn't work hard for the win that they got. They would definitely be. I don't know. Tennessee's looked really rough. These bottom three teams are in a bad position. But the Saints have continued to fight hard, and I won't take that away from them. I've been saying that since pretty much the beginning of the season. The only game they really got beat up in was the Seattle game. That was ugly. It was at 44-13. But this is just, I don't know. And I don't think it gets any better from here. At number 29, the Cleveland Browns, another team that's rough right now. 1-5 on the season, losing to Pittsburgh 23-9. But they were in this game. It wasn't like they didn't have a shot. It was a tight game pretty much all the way through. I think at halftime, it was like 16-6. So it wasn't like out of reach, but they just couldn't do it. I mean, poor Dylan Gabriel, 29 for 52, threw the ball 52 times, 221 yards. Junkins, who's had a really good start to his pro career, they didn't run the ball that much. Only gave him 12 carries. I feel like you got to work him a little bit more, especially in a rugged team like Pittsburgh. They're a blue-collar football team. They always have, always will be. And I just, if you're Cleveland, you got to find ways. But there's a lot of young players on this Cleveland team, like young guys. And it's just like it feels like a tryout is going on every time they're on the field. And I feel like the, Shedeur Sanders whispers are going to get louder as we continue to go along. I don't know when, where, who, why, but I feel like that's something we just got to be on the lookout for. If not, if he doesn't get traded here in the next 2 weeks, you got to watch out for Deshaun Watson. That could happen. Who knows? But Cleveland's at 29. At 28, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins blew a lead with like it may have been less than a minute. I could be wrong on the time, but Miami scored 14 points in the fourth to get them in position to take the lead. And then Justin Herbert on in that final minute just goes down the field, does amazing things, hits Lad McConkey. McConkey puts him in real good field position, and then Dicker the kicker does what he does best, and he knocks the field goal through, and the Chargers are 4-2. So the Chargers found a way when there was no way, and the Dolphins fall to 1-5, and it's not pretty. Tua had 3 picks, 21 for 32, a touchdown, 3 picks. It was bad. It's bad. There's no nice way to put it. It was bad. So Dolphins at 28. At 27, another team it just hasn't been clicking, and injuries have beat them up, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. Currently, the Baltimore Ravens, if the draft started today, would have the number 2 pick in the draft. That doesn't even sound right. But that's because there's no Lamar Jackson. Patrick Ricard, who is a valuable piece, that fullback piece that has not been there. He's been banged up. He should be coming back soon. He's out. They're hurt, and it shows. And they're just not the same team with Lamar. Now, even with Lamar in there, they had some struggles, but they just haven't been the same team. And this could be a do or die year for John Harbaugh. Even though he just signed an extension, I could feel like the Bella, the Brian Billick situation may be approaching, where Billick had been so good there for so long, and it was just time for a regime change. Baltimore hasn't had that many coaches, and as an organization, so this could be. If it doesn't get better, I could see it happening just as a boost to the team. So we'll see. Baltimore's at 27. At 26, we talked about the Raiders and their win over the Titans. At 25, the Bengals. The Bengals had a tough contest with the Packers. Packers had to lead the whole game, but the Bengals never gave up. The Packers were able to kind of put it away at the end, but as a Packer enthusiast, as you know I am, I didn't like the way this kind of played out. It played out kind of weird to me. And it was starting to feel like the Cleveland game for a couple of weeks ago, but the Packers this time were able to pull it off and keep the Bengals from coming back. But Joe Flacco, you could tell towards the end of the game, he started clicking with Chase and Higgins and those group. Like you could tell that the veteran came out in him. You know, he had 2 touchdowns, 29-45, which is not bad. Like he was starting to click a little bit. Geno Stone had a really good day too. I think he had a sack, he had a pick. He had a really good day for the Bengals. They're at 25 though, 4 straight losses. At 24, the Arizona Cardinals. Speaking of 4 straight losses, Arizona is just it's hard to watch a team. They fought really hard in this one. You know, it's hard to watch a team that just seem like they can't figure it out. Brissett at times I would even say look better than Kyler, and they almost felt like a better team with Brissett in there. And I don't want to knock Kyler, but it felt like a different team, and they had a chance to knock the Colts off, but the Colts continuing to show why they're a really good team in this NFL. So shout out to the Colts. They are rolling right along. But the Cardinals are at 24. At 23, the New York Football Giants. The Giants, watch out for the Giants, getting their second win of the year, defeating the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, 34-17, and did it in impressive fashion. You know, Scatterboo was giving them the business. Jackson Dart was looking great. Except for that one moment he went into the medical tent, and that's been the big controversy because Dayball went into the tent to check on him, and people was like, wait a minute, is he trying to force him to come back out there? Nevertheless, the Giants win this game, and they win by 17. So if you're an Eagles fan, the alert sign is on right now. Like, yo, what is going on? Why did this happen? But the Giants with a nice win, and they moved to 2-4. At 22, the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys playing a Panthers team that is still trying to figure themselves out, but have had some good moments this season. And they had another good moment against Dallas. Rico Dowdle, Dowley. I think that's why I figured out Dowley. Rico Dowley came in there and had another great game, and he helped defeat this Cowboys team, his former team, and he looked so good. 183 yards rushing, just coming off of that 200-yard rushing game he had last week. It was 206 yards last week, almost another 200-yard game this week, and he has looked impressive. Like if you're Chuba Hubbard, I always say his name wrong, or Chuba Hubbard, you may not get your job back. I mean, Rico's playing great football right now. He had 239 yards overall from the scrimmage. So you could tell it meant a lot for him to win. Bryce Young, 199 passing, 17 for 25, 3 touchdowns on the pick. He's playing better football. I said at the beginning of the year, ladies and gentlemen, that the Panthers, the Giants, the Jaguars, the Patriots would all be teams. I mean, I said the Jets too, but they've been the only team out of my teams that haven't done what I said they would do, which would be competitive. Well, the Jets have been competitive. They just haven't won the games. But, you know, big competitive and surprise people. And we've seen that from those 4 teams so far. Maybe the Jets make me look good at some point. And then last but not least, they had a bye last week, the Houston Texans. They're 2-3. They're 2 straight wins as they sit at the top of the bottom. With that being said, here at the bottom, Jets, Titans, Saints, Browns, Dolphins, Ravens, Raiders, Bengals, Cardinals, Giants, Cowboys, and the Houston Texans round out the bottom. Man, oh man, the bottom is shaping up the way I think it. There's a couple of surprise teams in the bottom. You know, I think the Cowboys being in the bottom, the Ravens being in the bottom, the Bengals being in the bottom, obviously because of injuries. The Texans, there's like 5 teams, maybe even the Dolphins, maybe. But I thought the Dolphins were going to be bad, so I'm not going to sit here and say. But there's a couple like maybe they shouldn't be here, and they still got chances to crawl out. The Chiefs were in the bottom for a couple of times, and they've crawled out. So I mean, I still see that some of these teams can make that happen. With that being said, let's go to the outside looking in. outside looking in. Outside looking in. Look who crept into the outside looking in at number 20, the Carolina Panthers. Shout out to the Carolina Panthers once again, with their nice win over Dallas. Dak, who had a great game in that game and continues to have a great season so far for Dallas. It just, Carolina came to play, man, and Coach Canales trying to hang on to that job, man. But 3-3, they're in the mix in the NFC South, and they're in the mix for a playoff spot. So shout out to the Panthers. At 19, the Minnesota Vikings, they were on a bye last week. They're sitting at 3-2. At 18, the Washington Commanders, 3-3, tough loss. Tough loss to the number 17 team, the Chicago Bears. Being at that game, rainy, misty, just ugly football game. Thank the Lord that the Commanders are playing in Dallas in the Dome this week. So your boy ain't got to worry about the rain. I am so excited about that. So I love the fact that they're going to play in the Dome this week. Now, the Commanders had a chance to win their game, and a huge fumble by Jaden Daniels towards the end of that game set the Bears up for the game-winning field goal as they won 25-24. It's a tough one, but the Commanders did what they needed to do, and they got the win. At 17, the Chicago Bears. We talked about their win over the Commanders, and that's 3 straight wins for the Chicago Bears. So shout out to Ben Johnson and the crew. They're starting to click. At 16, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons, big win. Big win. Big win over the Bills. I would have them higher, but I still need to see more. Bijan Robinson is the truth, y'all. He is the truth. And I love everything that I'm seeing from Bijan Robinson right now. And he's what Saquon Barkley, he's like a young Saquon Barkley right now. And he's what Saquon Barkley was last year, I guess, to an extent, but we just haven't seen from him this year. So watch out. The Falcons are in the mix in the South, and they've got a chance. The South's going to be a little bit more competitive than I thought it was going to be. So it's something to watch out for. At 15, the Kansas City Chiefs, big win over the Lions as they continue to creep their way back into top 10 status per se, but they're now outside and looking in the middle of the pack. It was a good win for them. It was at 30-17. I like what I saw, and I think that they can continue to get better from here. But Kansas City, man, they're going to creep back into that top 10. I can feel it. And I'll get a chance to see Pat Mahomes in person next week. Very excited about that opportunity on Monday Night Football to see if the Chiefs, what they can do against Pat Mahomes and Kansas City. That's going to be a very cool experience. But that's next week. That's week 8 action. At 14, the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers losing a tough one against the Buccaneers, a really good Buccaneers team. And a 49ers team that was beat up, that hung in the game. I think it was like 26-19 for a long time, or 27-19. No, it was 27-19. They were in there, and they had chances, but just too much Buccaneers. But this 49ers team still in a good spot. If the playoffs started today, they would be in the playoffs, and they only from here are going to get healthy. George Kittle, which we heard just a little while ago, should be playing this weekend, so watch out for that. At 13, the 4-2 Los Angeles, a.k.a. San Diego Chargers, with their win over the Dolphins, a much-needed win after losing 2 straight games, so they kind of get back to their winning ways. At number 12, the Denver Broncos, now 4-2 on the season, and impressively, the Broncos right now sit in position to potentially take a division lead. But the Chargers hold on to it right now because they're 3-0 in the division. So, you beat everybody in the division so far. You've handled your business. So the Broncos are going to need some losses in there. And I probably should have the Chargers above the Broncos, but I like the tough physical football that the Broncos are playing right now. At 11, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tough loss for Jacksonville against a really good Seattle Seahawks team. On paper, it doesn't look sexy if you look at the names, but Mike McDonald has that team playing really well. But Jacksonville, tough loss, losing 20-12, and I think they'll bounce back this week, but I still like them overall. I still think they're going to make the playoffs. I still think they're going to be a problem as the season goes along. but I have them at number 11, knocking on the door to getting back into the top 10. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. The outside looking in, we've got the Panthers, the Vikings, the Commanders, the Bears, the Falcons, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Chargers, Broncos, and last but not least, at number 11, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there it is. Outside looking in, and it's getting a little closer. You can see some teams really starting to make a push and make some things go their way. I think in the next week or so, we see Kansas City sneak back into the top 10. I think Jacksonville has a chance to get back in there. San Francisco might have a chance. Denver, those top 6 teams, even the Falcons. I think from the Falcons up to the Jaguars in that power ranking, I think they have a chance to really make some noise. So let's see how that goes. So now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the top 10. Top 10. At number 10, the New England Patriots, 4-2 on the season. The Patriots, with their win over the Saints, Drake May continues to be impressive. And what he's been able to bring to the table, he's 10 touchdowns, only 2 picks so far this season, throwing for 1,500 yards on the year. They've got them a guy. Out there. He's confident, and it looks like everything's working out in the favor of this New England Patriots team. And they've got a division lead. Yes, I have the Bills over them because I still think the Bills are the better overall team. Even with the win, I still like the Bills over them, but because they're so young, and the Bills do have Josh Allen. But New England's on the right pace. And so it was a really good win against Buffalo. That was last week, my fault. There was a really good win against Buffalo last week, and then to get that win against the Saints this week. So nicely done. At number 9, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks continuing to roll right along. They are looking good. Sam Darnold is showing that he's not a one-year wonder, as he has this Seahawks team in a really good place at 4-2. At number 8, you've got the Los Angeles Rams with their win over the Baltimore Ravens, a Ravens team that just seems like all is lost. But the Rams with a 17-3 victory. And shout out to the Ravens. They hung in there, but it just wasn't enough. Puka Nacua, who's a little banged up, he got banged up in that game. It'll be interesting to see if he goes on Sunday. And they're always going to need him, but they still have Devontae Adams, so they're not in miserable shape. But we'll see what the Rams can do heading into week number 7. At number 7, the Philadelphia Eagles, second straight loss. This loss against the Giants, this one is ugly. And the Giants fans are not gonna let the Eagles fans get past on this one. And shout out to the Giants fans, they deserve this. But the Eagles, tough weeks for them. And Buffalo, both teams were 4-0. We had them at 1-2 on our power rankings. They're still in the top 10. They're still really good football teams, but they both lost in back-to-back weeks. So Eagles at 7, Bills at 6. They have an interesting road coming up here in the next couple of weeks. At number 5, the Detroit Lions. Despite the loss to the Chiefs, I still like the Lions and where they are. I like what this team, solidifies overall as a football team. They're coming into that Chiefs game. They were rocking and rolling. So, you never can put anything past Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So losing that game is nothing to be ashamed of, but I still like them being one of the best teams in the NFL. At number 4, the Green Bay Packers. I didn't even want to put them in there. But I feel we'll see. Technically they're the number 2 seed right now in the NFC, technically. But I still need to see more. There's so much potential on this team. I've been saying it for years, and they need some vets, man. They got to get some vets. Vets at receiver, vets at cornerback, just a couple of defensive veterans to come in and really help this team take them over the edge, man. We're just too young. And it's not a bad thing because we're still winning football games being young, but we just need that veteran presence. Come on, Goot. What are we doing? At number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got a nice one tonight against the Bengals. Pittsburgh beating the Browns in, classic Pittsburgh fashion. They're 4-1. Aaron Rodgers and the crew are looking happy. DK Metcalf is doing his thing. They're rolling right along. At number 2, the Indianapolis Colts. I really struggled to make a decision to put either the Colts or the Buccaneers at 1. But I went with the Buccaneers at number one because of the level of competition that the Buccaneers have faced and have won games against. Like it's not been easy for Tampa Bay. So, they had the Lions. Oh, they got the Lions, excuse me, this week. So that's going to be another really good match. Really test to see if they deserve to still stay in that number one spot. But they had a battle with the Falcons, a battle with the Texans. Falcons was almost a playoff team last year. The Texans were a playoff team. A rough one went against the Jets, but they pulled it off. They're only lost to the Eagles in a game where they almost had a chance to come back. A shootout with the Seahawks, who are right now currently a playoff team, and the 49ers, who are also currently, and it's early in the season, but playoff team. So it's hard for me to give the Colts the edge just yet. The Colts have had, some easier opponents, I guess you should say. And that's been my real difference over, the two. I mean, the Chargers, they got the Chargers this week, excuse me. And then, they Cardinals and Raiders and they only lost to the Rams, who are having the top 10. Titans, big win. Nice win over the Broncos. And then you beat the Dolphins. So, like, some of these matchups, like I didn't expect them to be. I thought I had them going 2-15. I didn't expect them to be where they are, but I still think strength of schedule so far, I gave it to the Buccaneers. So, there it is. Our top 10, ladies and gentlemen. Patriots, Seahawks, Rams, Eagles, Bills, Lions, Packers, Steelers, Colts, and at number one, and I believe this is their fourth time at number one, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Shout out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. They have played some really good football here in the last couple of years. I like everything that I've seen from them. They continue to show why they're a good football team led by Baker Mayfield and the crew. And so the Bucs, for the fourth time ever, are the number one team in our power ranking. Well, there you go. There's the top 32 teams, the power rankings in the NFL. And now we're going to finish it up strong, ladies and gentlemen, with the finale. All right. So our players of the week, a.k.a. the Kings of the Gridiron, for week number 6. There's a couple of ways I could have went with this. There were some players that had some outstanding weeks in the NFL last week, and it was a tough thing for me. Like there were some guys that I really wanted to give the nod to, but I thought the 3 touchdown performance for Cam Scatterbo and what he was able to do to help push that Giants team over the edge against the defending champions deserved to make him player of the week. 19 carries, 98 yards. 3 touchdowns, 5.2 yards per carry in the win over Philly. Rico could have got it. He was a guy who had a really good week last week, and it was a really tough decision to decide who to give it to. Bijan had a really good week, 19 carries for 170 yards and a TD. But I just said, you know what, Scatterboo, 3 touchdowns. I'm gonna give it to the boo. Scatterboo. And then on the defensive side, Devin White, 9 tackles, 1 sack, an interception, and a forced fumble against Tennessee. What a game for Devin White, who, former Pro Bowler, has done some really good things in his career, had a little bit of a setback after leaving Tampa Bay, but now looking like he's found in his space with the Raiders. So there they are, our players of the week, a.k.a. the Kings of the Gridiron, Cam Scatterboo and Devin White. Now, to the MVP race. We got number 1, Baker Mayfield. Need I say more? Tough as they come. He's the not the Aaron Rodgers. He's the Brett Favre of this generation. This generation's Brett Favre. And it's still building. It's not quite Brett, from the outskirts, but he's got a lot of Brett Favre in him. That's who I see first. Just gutsy. At number 2, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has got this. He's playing great football right now. He's got this Colts team in position to do really good things, and they're the number 1 seed in the AFC currently. At number 3, Dak Prescott. They're 2-3-1, but Dak is having a really good season. He's like number 1 in like 8 categories. It's insane. I'm exaggerating that he's number 1 in 8 categories, but he has had a really, really good season so far, and it's hard to take away what Dak has been able to do. And he's second in passing yards, second in touchdowns, he's second in QBR, the ESPN rating. So he's having a really good year. At 4, the leading rusher in the league, leading in touchdowns, all that fun stuff, Jonathan Taylor. I could easily have him higher on this list, but we all know that the MVP, unfortunately, for some people, is a quarterback award. And then I wanted to give some defensive love, and Nick Bonito, he has been amazing. Leads the league in sacks with 8. He continues to do great things out there in Denver, and it shows every week why he deserved the money that he has gotten from Denver in that contract extension he got this offseason. Now, to take a look at the power rankings, if the playoffs started today in the AFC, the number 1 seed would be the Indianapolis Colts with their 5-1 record. The 2 seed, the Pittsburgh Steelers, would take on the number 7 seed Denver Broncos, a battle back to that famous Tim Tebow game from Mile High years ago. Then it would be the number 3 seed Chargers against the Jaguars. That would be a playoff rematch from that game in Jacksonville a few years back, where Jacksonville was down 27-3 and ended up winning the game 30-27 or 28-27. So I'm pretty sure the Chargers haven't forgotten about that. At number 4, we got the New England Patriots. They would take on the number 5 seed Buffalo Bills. So a very interesting matchup if the playoffs started today. On the NFC side of things, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the 1 seed right now. I said, even though I don't have Tampa Bay winning the Super Bowl in my initial predictions, I said they were probably the most dangerous team in the NFC. They're proving it right now. They're number 1 seed. The number 2 seed, the Green Bay Packers. Still a lot I need to see from them. They would take on the number 7 seed LA Rams. The number 3 seed San Francisco 49ers would take on the number 6 seed Detroit Lions, which would be a really good matchup. And then the number 4 seed Philadelphia Eagles would take on the number 5 seed Seattle Seahawks. Now, swinging over to your boys' record last week. Look, as you can see, the numbers are getting worse. Week 4, I was 9-6-1. Week 5, 6-8. Last week, 7-8. Yo, back-to-back bad weeks. I'm afraid that I may not get it right this week. I'm afraid I might not get it right this week. 53, 39-1 overall through 6 weeks of the NFL season. Then tonight's game, I got the Steelers winning 30-20. You know, my scores are usually close. I could be way off on this because we don't really know. But I will give Joe Flacco his credit when credit is due. He's a tough quarterback, and he's got some better weapons than he had in Cleveland. But I got the Steelers winning 30-20 tonight. And then last but not least, here's my winners for Week 7 this week. I got Steelers, Packers, Commanders, Jags, Chiefs, Dolphins, Patriots, Panthers, Bears, Eagles, Colts, Giants, Falcons, Buccaneers, and the Seattle Seahawks. So we shall see. All right, everybody, that is it for episode 185 of One on One. We'll be back next week for episode 186. And, of course, to give you the power rankings heading into Week 8. We're almost halfway through the season. And that, once again, is pushing through. I mean, I'm always on the road or always on the move on the weekends. The NFL will be screaming my name on the weekends. And it's just a lot of work. A lot of good work, a lot of fun work. But, man, it makes the season go by so much faster. Being on the move to go into the games. I realized it last year, but it's really kicking in this year. But it's that in old age. Your boy's getting old. And so now being in the 40 club, those type of things happen. But once again, everybody, thank you all for tuning in for another episode of One on One. We'll be back next week for episode 186. And, of course, talk about and breaking down what happened here in Week 7. And so on and so on. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in. Peace.
One. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof.